Howdy folks, I'm going to wrap up this test of the Mkii 150 to 600 paired with the Om1 Mkii, and I'm putting it up against the Canon R6 Mark II. Similar pixels, one's full frame, R6 Mark II is full frame of course, and the Om1 Mark II is micro four thirds. And I've been testing to see whether it's worth unloading the full frame camera and just sticking with the Om1 Mark II, or if I still have a use for the full frame camera. So I've been doing some testing, pardon the traffic. I've been doing some testing with the ISO performance and also the autofocus in very low light. I did some extreme tests yesterday morning, and this is more of a reasonable test. I think my ISO's, let me check, where's my ISO at? 320th of a second, which should be adequate for these birds perched or stationary. And ISO currently is 1600. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to shoot some on this, the Om1 Mark II, and I'm going to do some shooting on the R6 Mark II with the 200 to 800. Now this is going to be set at 800 millimeters, the Canon, and I have the 150 to 600 set at 400 millimeters, which gives me 800 millimeters on the 2x crop on the micro four thirds. So and then we'll get inside and we'll see, we'll look at them out of camera, images right in the camera, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a quick process in Topaz, and we'll kind of look at everything, and then maybe I can make a determination as to whether to keep the full frame. My gut tells me that the full frame wins based upon what I saw in the back of the camera in low light, and I mean drastically wins. So my initial impressions looking at the images in the back of the camera post capture is that even the 200 to 800, which is not a very sharp lens, the Canon, just because the high ISO performance on the R6 looks like it's gonna absolutely stomp this thing. But stay tuned, we'll see if that is actually the case or not. I'm trying to make this as equal as possible. That's why I'm shooting them side by side in the exact same light. Okay, see if we can get some captures, and we'll see you inside. Okay, we're at the computer. We're going to take a look at some high ISOs from the first day. Performance of the Om1 Mark II and the R6 Mark II from Canon. And I'm going to kind of compare the two. And let's get right into it here. Reset my screens. Okay, over to display. Okay, Om1 Mark II is on the left-hand side. The R6 Mark II is on the right-hand side. And fairly similar ISOs. I tried to keep them as close as possible for the comparisons. This is a female Baltimore Oriole. We'll zoom in on the Om1 Mark II. This is ISO 4000. And take a closer look at this one. Let's come in on the Canon. This is ISO 5000. And if we take a look, we can definitely see a little bit of noise in each image. You can see the noise in the 5000 ISO. On the Canon, what I wanted to point out, this is interesting, and I see this consistently on the Om1 Mkii. If you look at the feathers right here and look at the color. Now these birds are more orange than yellow. Okay. And these are raw right out of the camera. This image right here on the right hand side is much more saturated. You can tell, and it's sharper. Now this was shot with the R6 Mark II and the RF 200 to 800, which is not technically a sharp lens. Yes, these are heavy crops. They are. Would I call it pixel peeping? Yeah, probably. Come in a little bit further. If you look around the eye, ISO 5000, there's still plenty of feather detail there to work with in Topaz. Beak looks good. You can see the noise in the beak a little bit. If we come in a little further on the OM, you can see it goes soft. And you can see the noise in the beak. And I don't know how much of this you can see on YouTube, but if you look at the saturation, it is no contest between the two. The R6 wins on this front. Okay, let's go to the next one. Okay, these are both at ISO 4000. Come in, zoom in, take a closer look at the Om1. You can see it's doing the same thing. Still some good feather detail. Again, this is a severe crop. This is pretty wicked. So this is more of a realistic crop right here. Got the whole bird in the frame. Let's come in on the Canon. You can see what I'm talking about. Look at the depth of the color rendition and the dynamic range. Same ISO, far superior. Could it be the lens? No. No, these lenses, the 150 to 600 may have a very slight edge on sharpness. I had to take a sip of coffee, but it's very, very similar. Very similar. Very close. So you can see the difference. All right. Let's go to the next one on the OM. Okay, this is the male. This was shot at ISO 4000. This is a male, different bird though, shot at ISO 5000. Come in on the Canon. Come in on the OM. So this is same exact light. This was literally shot at the same time in the morning, like several minutes apart. So if we look at this ISO 4000, you can see the same level of noise. We come in a little closer, look at the eye and the beak. On the OM, look at the feathers, the contrast, dynamic range, color saturation. Not too bad. Not bad. You can see the Canon still wins a little bit in that department. Feather detail. Now again, these are severe crops, but if you come out to a reasonable crop, there we go. Come out to a reasonable crop. At first glance, they look similar. They are not. All right, let's go to the next one. Okay, this is something I wanted to show you. Let me see if there's one at 4. I don't think there. Okay, this is not a fair comparison. But if we go in on the Canon, that is not a house finch. This is a house finch on the right. On the Canon, but this was at 25,600. All right, we'll just look at that. This is something I wanted to point out. This gets extreme. The higher ISO you go on the Om1, the more color shift you get. This is a purple finch, and that is not what a purple finch looks like, even if you zoom out. So this is total and complete destruction, completely unusable ISO 40,000, which you'd expect that, right? I tried correcting it in Topaz, complete garbage. Garbage in, garbage out. Doesn't work. So that's something to be aware of. So let's go to the next one here. Okay, this is interesting. So let me see if I can find. Okay, so this right here on the OM was ISO 40,000 on this. And ISO 40,000 does not look bad. Horrible. I mean, yeah, it's all noise. But that's pretty respectable out of a Micro Four Thirds, in my opinion. So, yeah, kind of interesting, right? So anyways, all right, that's it for the high ISO comparisons, like the ridiculous ISO comparisons. And then we're going to get over to the more reasonable, which are like 1600 to 3200, which is more normal range for both cameras. All right, right back. Okay, we're going to skip through this. This is the 1600 to 3200 ISO ranges. I don't have them posted on the pictures themselves, but you're just going to have to trust me. That's the range they were in. So on the left is the OM, and the right is the Canon. So, oh, sorry about that. If we come in, take a little peek, zoom in on the Canon. Very, very good. Zoom in on the OM. See what I mean? This lens is sharp. The 150 to 600, it's not the lens. This lens does a great job. You see the pupil in the eye, see the individual feather detail down along his beak. Yeah. Let's go to the next one. And on the Canon. Again, these are unedited. Just take a look for yourself. Looks like the Canon wins in the sharpness department. All shot at the same shutter speed, 320 per second. This is a better one. These are both the same bird. So that's pretty good. Ooh. I actually like the OM image better. Pretty flippin' sharp, man. Look at the feathers under his beak. The next one. Let's see what's next on the Canon. Another house finch. Come in on the OM. Look at the water. It was raining. You can see this. See there, that's a raindrop right there, that spike. Yeah, that's really sharp. This looks like it's a bit out of focus. Or not quite as sharp. OM. Zoomed in. Oh, not a fair comparison. Let's see what's next. Probably a fair comparison. Canon. Tack sharp. OM. Not quite as crisp as the Canon. So the next one, not a good comparison. Let's look at this one. Not quite as sharp. I'm looking at the differences in image, like the dynamic range and the saturation and contrast and stuff like that as well. Let's go back one. Let's look at the Cardinal. So yeah, that's good. That's nice and sharp. Again, these are unedited. No edit. The next one. This poor guy, he had debris all over his beak from munching. Very nice, pretty serious crop. Look at the eye, the Cardinal. Over here, zoom in. Canon wins right here. Look at these feathers right here, how sharp they are. All along here, right here. Yeah, that's bonkers. That's definitely sharper. Okay, here's another. Such pretty birds. Pretty good. Next. Yeah, it's tack sharp. Look at this. It's got fruit. There's fruit all over his face. Yep. If you switch from one to the other, you can tell that this is sharper. This is better. Morning dove looks good. The OM. I'm sorry, it's a lot of the same birds, but I did this in a very tight window because I wanted a fair comparison. The only reason this is blurry is because he was munching. His beak was going like crazy. But if you look at anything that's not moving, yeah, it's nice and sharp. On the Canon, this is nice and sharp. On the OM, the individual feathers all along here. The eye, the ring around the eye, the beak. I'm nitpicking. This is what I wanted to do. Serious nitpicking. That image is soft out of the Canon. It was kind of an interesting image. Okay, the one on the right. I mean, look at the detail in this. Good Lord. Beak is out of focus. Grab the eye and the head. Right there. And, I love the little stuff going on the top of the head. Cool. Let's look at the OM. Not quite the sharpness. Now again, the Olympus, the Mkii 150 to 600, I had set at 400 millimeters, which is 800 millimeter equivalent on the 2X crop on the Micro Four Thirds. The 200-800 on the right, Canon was set at 800 millimeters. That's a full frame. So they're both roughly the exact same focal length. Very similar f-stop. Well, not really, because the f-stop on the 200-800, the RF 200-800 from Canon is an f9 at 800 millimeters, 6.3 on the 150 to 600 OM. So it's a little bit quicker of a lens. Well, technically not, because of the 2X crop on the sensor. So you also have to keep that in mind. Saturation suffering right here. Very weak. Cardinal's very vivid. Extremely vivid. This one isn't bad. This is a great example. The softness could be the bird just slightly moving. Possible. Gray catbird. I don't think this grabbed focus. No, it did not. It moved its head. That's motion blur from it. You see that on its beak? He moved his head just as I took the picture. So this one was dead still. Great sharpness on this. Awesome. See all along top of his head, all these feathers. Looks really, really good. Again, you look at the sharpness of this on the right-hand side. She's a little sharper. And this 200-800 is not, like I said, it's not a sharp lens. It's not really a great lens. It's not a pro-level lens. This is... Yeah. That's freaking banging. And that is a major crop. Huge. Show you how tiny it was in the frame. There you go. All right, let's get on to the next one. That looks pretty good. Beak out of focus, eyes in focus. Very shallow depth of field. You can tell. Pretty shallow. Jump, make the jump. Look at the feather detail in this. It's friggin' bonkers, you know. Up here. Looks really good. So the next one. Wicked good detail in this on the OM. Feathers all around his eye and his eye, the pupil. Really good. Raindrops all over him. Water specks. Hummingbird. Wicked sharpness. Tell even on that extreme crop. Really good. Let's look. This taken. Trying to wash his beak off in the. Got a little makeshift bird bath there out of an old fire pit, copper fire pit type thing. Not bad. Again, look at the sharpness, and then look at this, the Canon. The next one on the OM. Looks really good. Sharpness in the feathers right here. Crazy, right? How many of these did I grab? Good heavens. Yeah, look at the sharpness on that. That's insane. That is insane. And again, that's not even a great lens. That's terrible. That's just, I don't know what happened there on the OM. Take a look at this one. That's pretty good. That looks good. Okay, that's it for the Canon stuff. Yeah, it's nice on the left. It's pretty good. Probably should have been, I should have had an exposure comp on, oh, maybe -1/3 to 2/3 of a stop. Okay, this is gray-headed cowbird, female cowbird. This looks really good. Look at the beak, razor sharp. Really good. The eye. Close with post-processing, I don't think you'd be able to tell the difference between these guys. Okay, we have one more step. I'm going to just show you a handful of images processed in Topaz. Sorry about the noise. And again, we have the OM on the left and the Canon on the right. So we'll see what can be done with the OM. See what I mean in post? You have to put, well, you post-process everything. I post-process everything. It's just sometimes images are so good right out of the Canon that you almost don't even need to. So there's the OM on the left. Let's get in here on the right with a Canon. Yeah, that's freaking bonkers. That's amazing. So this is amazing too. Look at that eye. That is dynamite. Look at the feather detail on the OM. Let's go to the next one. Wow. Really good. Next one over here. Go to the Vinci. Meh. Body looks good. The head, I think that's motion blur, and he pretty much couldn't fix that. Let's go to the next one. Yeah, there we go. There we go. That's a fair comparison. No motion blur. Yeah, that OM on the left, boy, that's a rock and roll right there. That's nice. And another one. Yeah, really nice. So this is what can be done in post. And then looks good on the Hummer. Finch on the perch. Yeah, looks great. These are mild, very mild processing in Topaz. Go to the next one. Wow. Yeah, that's incredible. Go to the next one on the OM. That's great. Should say good. It's good. This is the Cardinal. Look at the backgrounds. Really good. This looks great. The left-hand side. Yeah, that's it for the Canon. Got a couple more on the up. There's one of the first ones we saw on the OM. That's a train wreck. That's no good. Garbage. This should be good. Oh yeah. This cleaned up really, really good. Look at that eye. Wow. That's crazy. And that's it for that. So those are the corrected ones. All right, now we'll be back with final thoughts. All righty. Final thoughts. Should I sell the R6 Mark II and the entire lens package, or should I keep it? So first thing I wanted to say is that I have an extremely high standard for sharpness, like ridiculously high standard, because I print. It's the most important thing to me. And excuse me, The ability to capture images in camera at their maximum potential is paramount. Now, I do understand that sharpness isn't the only thing. You know, you've got portability, hand holdability, weight, stuff like that to consider. Because at this stage of the game, I really don't want to go out into the field bogged down with so much heavy equipment. So I figured I'd just get that out of the way first. So regarding ISO performance, I guess from what I'm seeing is that the Canon does outperform it. The R6, it's a full frame sensor, roughly same megapixel, 24 megapixels, somewhere in there. OM is 20 megapixels. So kind of similar, but very different cameras. Of course, the OM is micro four thirds. But the ISO performance, it looks to me like it's better. You don't see the desaturation. You don't see the color shifts, the washing out under high ISO performance. So from what I saw in the images, it definitely wins. The Canon wins. Here's something that is very different about these two cameras is the autofocus system. The autofocus system in the Om1 Mark II absolutely eats the R6 Mark II for lunch, chews it up and spits it out. This camera is remarkable. The autofocus subject detect, tracking the stickiness of it. When I hit the shutter button and it locks focus, which at 99% of the time is instantaneous, even shooting through trees, dense brush, it's remarkable. The Canon does not do that. The Canon, when you have subject tracking on and eye detect, it will lock focus very quickly. But as you're waiting for a shot, a right shot, instead of just praying and spraying, which I don't do most of the time on static subjects, I'm waiting for the expression, it will all of a sudden jump off. It'll just, you'll see it just, it'll just lose the subject. Nothing's changed. Very, very frustrating. Very frustrating with the R6 Mark II. So to combat that, what I usually do with the R6 Mark II and the R7, because the R7 does the same thing, and I've tried everything. I have I use case 1 on the R6 and the R7 with both the sliders set to -2 to see if I can make it more sticky so it'll just hold there. Doesn't seem to help. Still does it. So, you know, as far as autofocus, subject acquisition, stuff like that, the Om1 Mark II wins hands down in that department. No contest. Just as an example, I saw a first sighting here on the property. 2 examples. This was last week. Saw an American red star, a male. I heard him. I thought, that's a different call. So I'm looking in the trees, and I saw him, and I had the Om1 Mark II with a 150 to 600, and I put that thing on that bird, and I hit the button. It went right through the branches and grabbed the eye instantly and did not let go. And I got 2 or 3 captures of him before he scooted off. That wouldn't have happened with Canon. I can tell you that. No way. Because it was like shooting through a tube of chaos. It was insane. So, yeah, the Om1 that's a winner right there over the R6 and the R7. I mentioned the saturation. That's the one thing that kind of frustrates me about the OM system. Colors just, they're different. And once you start pushing the ISO, you lose a lot of that saturation, color rendition, contrast. It can be fixed in post, but, and as well as the sharpness, it just doesn't seem to be as sharp as the Canon. It can be fixed, again, it can be fixed in post. The one thing I found with the OM system is that you have to post-process. And we post-process all of our images, any image that goes to print or anything, right? However, I have a video on my channel here, if you go back and look, regarding the Chunky Mkii 72. The RF 70-200 f4L. That lens paired with the R7, because the R7 is an APS-C sensor, 1.6 crop factor, gives me 320 millimeters on that lens with no change in aperture. If you go in and watch that video, those images are, I have never seen images come out of a camera that sharp in my entire life, right out of the camera. The colors are absolutely insane on that camera. And most people don't realize it, but that 32.5 megapixel sensor on that camera is the equivalent to 80 megapixels full frame. It's a very densely packed sensor, which, not getting too deep into the R7, under low light conditions can be pretty bad as far as noise goes with high ISOs. But under moderate to great light, that is an incredible sensor. Slow, readout speed's very slow, but for static subjects, captured an owl with that at 1/60th of a second. In very, very low light with a 100 to 500, one of the sharpest lenses I've ever owned. The RF. Tack sharp, right out of the camera in very low light. Incredible. So, yeah, sharpness. Would I call the Om1 Mkii a croppable camera? Does it produce croppable images? Sure, under good light. But general consensus is, you know, Micro Four Thirds, they just, no matter what anybody says, they're not going to beat a full frame camera in low light. And that's basically what I found. Another advantage I want to go over to the Om1 Mkii is the ability of ultra fast shooting, up to 50 frames per second with the appropriate lenses, along with Pro Capture, which Canon has pre-burst as well. But what you get into with this camera, the Om1 Mkii, is the virtual non-existent rolling shutter in when shooting in electronic shutter. I believe this is a backside illuminated stack sensor. Very fast readout speed. And I have never hit the buffer with this. I've actually left at 25 frames per second. I don't think you can hit the buffer. I think you can go on indefinitely, because the one drawback to this, I wanted to mention, it has no audible shutter when you're in electronic shutter, or silent shooting mode it's called. So when I'm shooting in burst mode at 25 frames per second, there's no audible sound. And I realized when I got home, I looked at the files, I went, good Lord, how many seconds did I hold the freaking shutter button down? Because you can't hear it. And it's a blackout free viewfinder. I didn't even know I was taking the pictures. I just, you know, fired away. And it just kept going and going and going and going. And I'm scrolling through the images. I'm like, holy crap. Like 200 images there or something. It was ridiculous. So, That's the only drawback. But as far as rolling shutter, yeah. Can't say that about the R6 and definitely the R7. R7 is noted for having horrible rolling shutter. The last elephant in the room, this is an elephant in the room. I'm going to be doing a video on this regarding the 150 to 600, is the weight. Now, these two cameras with a battery grip on this, Om1 Mkii, it's a small camera. You know, if you hold it up with the R6, it's quite a bit smaller. But I almost can't tell the difference in weight. That yes, this is a little heavier with a battery grip on it. But if you take the battery grips off, really the weight is negligible. It's not that different. And if anyone is considering jumping into the OM system because of weight, I would pause. Depending on the lenses you use, if you're going to be shooting landscape and stuff like that, yes. Like I have a, what is it, the 14 to 40 Pro, 2.8 Pro, very small, very light lens. But you also have to consider focal length. So let's just take for example, the 100 to 400 IS2. I also own that lens for the OM. Not a big lens. That gives an equivalent focal length of 200 to 800 millimeters. Now that compared with the 200 to 800 on the full frame, the RF, Canon, is like a fraction of the size, right? But I would say the 100 to 400, it's not a particularly light lens. And the reason why I say that is because if you're shooting, let's say, sports, close sports, say you're at a basketball game, you can get away with a 70 to 200 on a full frame. I can tell you, you take the battery grip off of this, or you use the R7 with the 70 to 200 f4L, that package is so light, it is ridiculous. It's actually lighter than the OM system. It's light. Because those new RF lenses from Canon are made out of like high impact plastic. They're not metal. I mean, the only metal in them is pretty much the motor drives and electronic components and the mount. That's it. So they're all high impact plastic and they are feather light. Same with the 24 to 105. I have that, the F4L. Super light. So weight, meh. You get into the 150 to 600, and I'm going to address that along with the 150 to 400 that everybody oohs and ahs and raves about. I'm going to get into that one because I'll be doing a review on the 150 to 600 and my thoughts and going over some image captures, a lot of captures with that lens on the Om1 Mkii. Is it heavy? Yeah. But then I can tell you, I shot with that for an entire day at Dead Creek, handheld, and I was tired. I was tired after that, but it's not that heavy. It's really not that heavy. Everybody complains, oh yeah, well, it's heavy. It's heavy as heck. No, it's not. That's a complete joke with what I'm going to go into regarding that lens. Everybody raves about the big white. Well, when I show you that, that will pretty much put a bullet between the eyes of that elephant in the room. Because that's just a ridiculous argument. And I'll show you the numbers to back it up. So anyways, the weight considerations, is really, if you're shooting the new RF system from Canon, RF lenses, take the battery grip off the camera, whether you're shooting an R5, it's a non-issue. You know, days of old, you know, when everything was made out of aluminum and metal and or magnesium alloy on these lenses, and they're super heavy. Like the I have the EF version 100 to 400 Mark II, a heavy lens. 100 to 500 RF, very light. Paired with the R7, incredibly light package and like lethally effective. Very sharp lens. Like I said, one of the sharpest lenses I've ever owned, even though it's a 7.1. So that pretty much does it. So no, I'm keeping the R6. And I was actually planning on selling the R7, but I'm going to keep it. Just because the images I capture with that combo, that 100 to 500, gives me 800 millimeter focal length equivalent on the 1.6 crop on the R7. It's a great combination for statics, stills, stuff like that. You want to walk around and grab birds in the trees and stuff like, yeah. You can handhold that all day long and then some. It is so light, so effective. So, you know, anybody, you know, if you're thinking about, oh, I got to jump into Micro Four Thirds because it's so light, don't do it for that reason. I'm just telling you right now. Unless you're shooting landscapes and you're going to shoot ultra wide angles, yes, then the lenses are incredibly tiny and very small. Go in and look at the weights. Do some research. Look at the weights of the different systems, the camera bodies alone, the lenses. Look at the RF, the new RF lenses. Now, some of them are pretty expensive, but then again, the 300 f4 is not cheap from OM Systems. You're looking at $2,000 for the 150 to 600. You're looking at $1,500 for the 100 to 400 IS2. You can get the 40 to 150 f2.8 Pro. I got that used for great bang for the buck. So if you look at the RF glass, some of the RF glass is really expensive. But I can tell you, like that 70 to 200 f4L, it's one of the sharpest lenses I think it might be the sharpest lens I've ever had in my life. That thing is ridiculous. So if sharpness is important to you, that's something to consider as well. Now, I bought that lens used. I got that used too, refurbed or reconditioned or whatever you want to call it. Came in the original box, original shrink wrapping, everything. Little baggy. I swear to God, it was an open box and I got it for like $400 less than what it goes for new. Crazy. So the price differences are really not that different. You look at it. You know, I paid $2,000 for this. The R6 Mark II, paid $2,000 for this, brand new. Body only. And I got this used, the R6. So, price, it all depends on what you're going to use it for. Do you want extreme portability? I can tell you that the lenses generally are bigger for this camera, for the R series, mirrorless Canons. They're just bigger, but it doesn't mean they're necessarily heavier. So that's it for me. I'm gonna get on out of here. I hope you found something useful and the diatribe at the end here, and really interesting. I wanted to check this for myself. So we'll see y'all later. Have a great day. Thanks for stopping by the channel. Don't be afraid to leave the comments. I'm not really interested in Kool-Aid drinkers. I am not a Kool-Aid drinker. Like I said, I am not loyal. I don't drink anybody's Kool-Aid. I'm not loyal to any system. I approach things from a purely practical angle. Time is money. Speed. How much time do I need to spend in post-processing? Everybody's different, you know? So that's just me. We'll see y'all later. Take care.